He whispered something into her ear, and she laughed the same laugh I used to love. My husband, my son, and the woman who replaced me. They clinked their glasses under golden lights while I stood alone in the shadows. 20 years of marriage erased like I never existed. But they forgot one thing: I don't disappear. I rebuild. The ballroom shimmered with soft lighting and celebration. James Matthews, my husband, stood proudly with a champagne flute in one hand and his arm around Vanessa Mills, his 25-year-old executive assistant, in the other. Her emerald dress sparkled like envy itself. I stood at the edge of it all, a quiet ghost, in a black cocktail dress that suddenly felt too tight, too outdated. 40 years old, forgotten in plain sight. The last few months had been an unraveling: anonymous messages, sleepless nights, James's long absences. But nothing prepared me for this. "Mom," a voice said behind me. I turned to find my 16-year-old son, Ethan. He looked so much like James, same jawline, same cold eyes. "Maybe you should head home," he said quietly but firmly. "You're not helping." "Helping?" I whispered. He glanced toward James and Vanessa. "Dad needs to look strong tonight. Clean. Forward-looking. You standing here, it doesn't fit." My breath caught. "Ethan, I'm your mother." "I know," he said flatly, "and I still respect you. But business is business." He turned and walked to them, James, Vanessa, and Ethan laughing together, 3 perfect silhouettes under crystal chandeliers. A new family. And I wasn't in it. No one noticed when I slipped out. The driver didn't speak. In the cab window, my reflection stared back, tired eyes, a hollow ache behind them. Had I become invisible, disposable? 20 years of helping James build that company. 20 years of raising Ethan. Was it really so easy for them to erase me? Back then, I thought this night was the end. I didn't know it was the start of something they never saw coming. 1 week later, James came home, not with an apology, not with answers. He came with divorce papers. He placed them on the kitchen table like they were an afterthought. His voice was calm. Practiced. "I've talked to Ethan. He agrees this is for the best. He'll be staying with me." I stared at the papers, blank inside. "You discussed this with our son." James shrugged. "He's mature. He's thinking about his future college connections. You know how it is." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a clean cut. They weren't just pushing me out of the marriage, they were erasing me from the picture. The settlement was simple: the vacation house in Vermont and $2 million. No shares in the company I helped build. No say in the empire we created together. That night, Ethan came home. He sat across from me, jaw set like his father's. "Just sign, Mom," he said, eyes empty. "You'll be fine. You've got the house, the money. It's more than most people get." "I'm still your mother," I whispered. "I haven't stopped loving you." He looked down at his phone. "Love doesn't pay tuition." The next morning I signed. As I stepped out of the lawyer's office, suitcase in hand, Ethan was waiting beside my car. "I'll drive you to Vermont," he said. In the car, we didn't speak until he did. "That $2 million," he said casually. "I made sure you got it, so don't waste it, or act like it's yours alone." I didn't reply. I just looked at him. This boy who once taped glitter hearts to my bedroom mirror, who used to hold my hand in grocery stores, now driving me away from everything I built, everything I loved. I didn't know what hurt more, losing James or losing Ethan. But deep down, something stirred. Something stubborn. The Vermont house sat at the edge of a pine-lined road, still and quiet like a held breath. When we arrived, everything was spotless, fresh flowers, my favorite tea in the pantry, even framed photos from happier days already hung on the walls. Ethan carried my suitcase inside like it was nothing. "I hired a housekeeper," he said. "Twice a week. I'll cover it." I nodded, unsure of what game we were playing now. He sat across from me at the dining table, his tone suddenly louder. "This money includes my expenses too. Don't go cheap on groceries when I visit, and I signed you up for yoga. Starts tomorrow." He raised his eyebrows, gave me a strange little smile, then leaned in voice barely above a breath. Walls have ears. Dad has people everywhere. I blinked. What? But he was already on his feet. The performance resumed. He came back this time with $10,000 in cash. Tossed it on the coffee table like he was delivering groceries. Dad's in a good mood, he said. Says it's for college prep. But you need a new wardrobe. I stared at him. What are you doing? He just smiled. You'll see. 2 weeks later, he brought 20,000 more. For business school, he said, more serious now. Mom, you've got skills. Use them. I'm in my 40s, Ethan, I said. I'm not starting over. He didn't flinch. Then don't expect me to bring my future wife and kids to meet someone who's given up on life. His words landed hard, but under the sting, they lit a fire. Was this cruelty or something else? Business school was the last place I expected to end up. But there I was, sitting in a room full of students half my age, pretending I belonged. To my surprise, I wasn't alone. A few others like me were starting over. One of them was William Thompson, retired logistics CEO, round face, warm smile, said he joined the program to keep the rust off. He helped me through my first finance exam, patient, kind. I've been there, he said. Rebuilding after life knocks you sideways. And slowly, something shifted. I started showing up early. I took notes. I raised my hand. For the first time in years, I was becoming me again. At the same time, cracks began forming in James's picture-perfect life. At Ethan's school conference, he made sure James and I sat together, leaving Vanessa awkwardly in the hallway. Dad, Ethan said you promised me a car if I broke the top 50. James beamed. Absolutely. You earned it. Vanessa stepped in. Ethan, darling, no need. The driver can take you. I want Mom to drive me, he said without hesitation. And bring home cooked meals. School lunches are trash. Then he added loud enough for only me to hear Dad said he'll only marry Vanessa once she gives him a real Matthews heir. Vanessa's face drained. She turned to James. Is that true? James stammered. Ethan slipped his arm through mine. Come on, Mom, he whispered. Let's go. I followed, stunned. For the first time, I wondered maybe Ethan wasn't pushing me away. Maybe he was pulling me forward. It started with an idea, a small, simple concept for a community-based online shop, one that focused on real people, real needs, and real service. I didn't have much, but I had time. I had drive. And thanks to Ethan, I had capital. William offered to help. I'm bored, he laughed. And your idea is better than half the junk I've seen on the market. We launched quietly, just a handful of neighborhoods, word-of-mouth basic goods, with personal touches. And people responded. Orders came in. Reviews glowed. I hadn't felt this alive in years. Meanwhile, James's empire crumbled. Vanessa made a bad call, overpaid for defective luxury imports, likely took kickbacks. Longtime partners walked. Deals collapsed. And James, the man who once stood so tall beside his shiny assistant, started calling. Flowers, voicemails, please. I ignored them all until he showed up at my door. We met for dinner. His hands trembled as he buttered the bread. Diana, I need help, he said. Just a loan, $3 million. I stared at him. You used to trust me, he added. I did, I replied. And you broke it, he swallowed. Vanessa's gone. Investors are gone. I have nothing left. I leaned back, thought for a long moment. I'll give you $2 million, I said, on one condition: you step down. I take control of the company. I'll hand it to Ethan when he's ready. His eyes narrowed. You want to replace me? No, I said quietly. You already replaced yourself. He exploded rage insults, old grievances. I stood up, walked out, and didn't look back. Because for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly where I was going. The headlines came fast. Executive under investigation for embezzlement. Vanessa's name was everywhere. Turns out she hadn't just made poor decisions, she'd stolen. And when James refused to cover for her, she threatened to accuse him of abuse unless he paid her $5 million. Diana got $2 million just for being old and useless, she reportedly snapped. Why should I get less? I didn't pay attention. I had orders to ship, meetings to attend, a business to grow. William and I were working late one evening when Ethan called. "Pick me up," he asked. School let out early. I pulled up to the curb. James was waiting there too, rumpled suit, sunken eyes. He looked 10 years older. Ethan stepped into the car without a glance at him. "Dad," he said with a smirk, "you look rough. Mom's aged in reverse. I guess peace suits her." James didn't answer. He just watched us drive away. That night, Ethan sat me down. "Mom," he said, "if you and William like each other, go for it." I blinked. "You'd be okay with that?" He grinned. "Please. At least now Dad will stop hoping you'll take him back." I searched his face. "Are you really all right?" I asked. "He's still your father." Ethan nodded slowly. He made his choices. So did you. And so did I. Then softly, "I never hated you, Mom. I just needed you to remember who you are." A few weeks later, I asked Ethan the question I'd been holding on to. "All this time, were you planning it?" He shrugged, half proud, half sheepish. "I couldn't stop them from hurting you," he said. "But I could make sure you didn't walk away with nothing." "And the way you talked to me, the coldness." He looked down. I had to make it convincing. For Dad, for Vanessa. But also, you needed a push, Mom. You gave everything to everyone else. It was time you gave something to yourself. The company handover went through. James backed into a corner, signed everything over. William and I took control and stripped the business down to what worked. Clean, focused, profitable again. Meanwhile, my small e-commerce brand was growing faster than either of us expected. I was building something of my own this time, with my name on it. At Ethan's next school conference, he'd broken into the top 40 in his class. His French teacher announced he'd ranked first. The principal invited me to speak to share my parenting wisdom. I almost laughed. Parenting wisdom. But I stood up and spoke voice steady. And somewhere mid-sentence, I realized we had made it through. Not perfect, not untouched, but stronger. 6 months after the divorce, William and I married in a simple garden ceremony. Just family, a few friends, and one proud teenager standing as our witness. Even James came quiet, respectful. The storm between us finally settled into silence. At the reception, as I cut the cake, Ethan leaned in close. "You're only 41, he whispered. "You've got your whole life ahead of you." I squeezed his hand, because he wasn't just my son anymore. He was my mirror, my reckoning, and in the end, my redemption. They took everything they thought mattered, but I kept what they never saw coming: my will, my name, and my next chapter. And this time it's mine.